So let me ask you this. Have you ever experienced a creative block in your artistic journey? Everybody should be saying yes because we've all been there. Sometimes, or a lot of times, when we draw or paint, we really don't know what to do, or we feel like we need to create something. And then when we actually sit down, we don't really know what to put on the paper, on the canvas, traditionally or digitally. And it can get kind of disheartening almost. And then you've been practicing all this time and you just don't know what to do. So in this video, I'm introducing the concept of an artist block, and I'm going to try to explain how it can affect creatives of all kinds. So it's not just we as concept artists who like to draw and paint, but it can affect musicians. I mean, you've heard the term writer's block. Basically anybody that creates something. And we know that we have ideas. We know, or we think we know, about the good ideas that we have, but we just can't get it down. All right, so some of the common symptoms and causes of artist block can range from self-doubt, comparing yourself to others, and burnout. And burnout is something that we have all faced. Me being in the industry for over a decade now, I can tell you that burnout is a real thing. And no matter how much you love your job, no matter how good you are at it, there's going to be times when you feel like you can't go on and it's becoming monotonous and you just have to get away. That's why we always love the vacations we take, or however else you alleviate stress. Okay, so let me talk about the first thing, and that's self-doubt. Self-doubt is not only destructive, but we experience it when we're not getting the recognition or I guess you could say the praising that we think we should get or that we deserve, or we're just not getting better. And being a creative, an artist, a musician, a writer, sculptor even, there's going to be times when no matter how much you're practicing, you just feel like you're not getting any better. And I just want you to know that it does get better. You have to break through those barriers. So when you see artists that have become successful and that have had those breakthroughs, it's because they completely ignored the self-doubt. It's natural to doubt yourself, okay? But it's actually, you need to turn it around and view it as a good thing. Imagine if you never doubted yourself. You would have no frame of reference on what is good and what is bad. Because in my line of work, and in my opinion, to just get better at something, you have to get your butt kicked in order to get better at it. And maybe some of you or a lot of you will disagree with that, but in my humble opinion, you have to get destroyed emotionally and physically in order to rise above it. Okay, so think about UFC fighters. Okay, whether you watch it or not, it takes a lot of skill to do what they do. And those that lose their rounds, lose their matches, regardless of their their physical prowess or their agility, when they lose, they take that with them, and it's fuel. It adds fuel to the fire. So think about being an artist, and you're not getting better at shading, or you're not getting better at line work, line quality, line weight, all of the line stuff. Okay. It just comes down to, are you going to keep doing it? Or are you just going to wallow in the fact that you're not being good right now? Because let's face it, being an artist, doesn't matter how good you get, it's never going to stop because there's always something to learn. So if you have that mindset, like, you know what, I've been in a rut for 3 months and I'm not getting any better, but if I keep going, maybe the 4th month, I will get better and I'll have that breakthrough, which is why it's really important to have a routine when you're doing this stuff. Stuff as in anything artistic or creative. Okay, and the other thing about self-doubt is when you're drawing and you're looking at your artwork and going, you know what, I'm kind of good, but I've just stayed there. like I'm stagnant and I think I've reached my ceiling. It can be kind of depressing because you see other artists around you getting better. I saw it in school. I saw both when I was a student and also when I was a teacher. I saw students come in that were very green. Okay, they have never drawn anything in their life, and if they have, it was a stick figure. And then I had students that had natural talent, and they could hold a pencil and glide that pencil across the paper, and they were just naturally good at it. But something happened, because in the 4-year time, as in, getting your degree, or 5 years, you start to see those artists that couldn't do anything actually surpass the artists that were pretty good at it. And it's because the original artists, their drive to succeed far outweighed the artists that could draw a little bit, but probably felt like, well, I just reached my plateau. I'm not going to get any better. Might as well just do what I can with what I got. And that mindset is what makes you settle. Okay, so everybody that's listening right now, if you are, one, watching me draw this, hopefully you enjoy the creature that I'm drawing, but two, if you're one of those artists that just feels like you're stagnating and you really have that self-doubt, just know that if you keep pushing, you're going to make it. It's just a matter of how much you want it, because the bottom line is this: you either like the idea of being an artist or you actually like the art. Two different things. And any of you listening to this right now, you fall into one of those categories. You like the idea of being able to draw awesome stuff, or you actually like taking the pencil and drawing the awesome stuff. Okay, so just think about that for a while and kind of do some soul searching. The second thing I want to talk about, and this is one of the biggest challenges of artist block, is comparing yourself to other artists. Now, there is a healthy dose of comparison. Okay, I do it. I still do it. I've been drawing all my life, and I still compare myself to artists that I admire and that I think I can learn from. The healthy dose is this: when you're trying to learn art, whether it's painting or drawing or sculpting, whatever you're doing, cherry pick the good things that other artists do that you admire and try to incorporate that somehow. Now, if you incorporate that into your own work, having all of those little tidbits that you've collected over the years, over the months of the years, they all form into not only your own style, but your own way of thinking about art. Okay, there's a lot of different references out there that you can get this, and that's another rabbit hole that I don't want to go down right now, like with the whole reference thing. But when you compare yourself to other artists, if they're well established and they've been in the industry for decades and they've just done awesome stuff for movies and games, and you haven't done anything, that doesn't mean you can't do it, and that doesn't mean you won't do it. All right, you can compare yourself so that you have that benchmark to know what your stuff has to look like in order to get those jobs that you want. That's where comparison is healthy. And I feel like a lot of students in school compare themselves to their classmates, which is the worst thing to do, because you're only comparing yourself with a handful of students. You're not comparing yourself with the people in the industry that you're going to be competing with once you send your portfolio out. Okay, so think about that. So we talked about self-doubt and we've talked about comparison. The other thing I want to talk about, this affects our mental health just as much as anything else, if not more, and that's burnout. All right, I cannot tell you how many of my friends in this industry have just suffered from burnout. And I mean, call it, crunch week, crunch hour, crunch time, whatever you want to call it. Happens to all of us. A company gets the go ahead for a big project, and all of a sudden the due date's nearing, whether or not it's a game release. Burnout happens when you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Even if you're doing it at a high level, you're getting paid well, and you love doing it. There comes a time when you just need that mental breather, and that's okay. That's why I'm a big advocate for companies that really strive to help work-life balance for all of their employees. They understand it, okay? And it's something that cannot go overlooked. So when you feel like you're burning out, it could also be that you're not improving and you're burning out trying to learn new stuff. What I suggest there is, instead of just downloading like dozens of tutorials and spending your money on all that stuff, just dedicate yourself to one, maybe two skills or tasks that you really want to get better at. And if you compartmentalize that one step at a time, you're going to get really good at one thing. And then when you move on to the next, those skills that you learned prior are going to fold into what you're trying to learn this time, or the new thing. Because I think a lot of times artists will skip around. And I remember when I started out in this industry, I wanted to do everything. Okay, yeah, my specialty is creatures, but I was obsessed with like props and weapons and vehicles and environments and all of that stuff. And then I had to take a step back and go, you know what? I'm gonna hone my skills in creature design, not drawing well, creature design. Because if my design skills become better, then my drawing skills will hopefully coexist with that. Okay, so if you're suffering from burnout, trying to learn new stuff, just dedicate yourself to one or two tasks that you really want to learn. Or not tasks, but I'm like skills. Dedicate yourself to the skills that you want to learn. It's much, much easier. And if you give yourself a schedule for that, you're going to learn not only more, but you're going to learn faster also. And those skills bleed into the next thing you want to learn. It's a nice little snowball effect. All right, so some practical tips, and this is something that I was just touching base on. All right, taking breaks, seeking inspiration, and trying new techniques. Okay, even if you're an old dog, you can learn new tricks. That's so cheesy to say that, I know, but you really can. And it's just the point of how much you're willing to learn, because a lot of times a breakthrough happens when you take a step back and learn something new. That's the craziest thing. It's like artists that have traveled the world become better artists. And they become better artists because their eyes are open to fashion, to landscapes, to different people in other parts of the world, so that when they come back home and they become grounded again, then they can start incorporating all the things that they learned, fashion and just the environments that they're in, the atmospheres, the ambiance, all that. Okay, taking breaks is huge for artist block. It's huge, because if you don't take breaks and you're sitting there frustrated and angry and you feel like you're not getting better and you rip up your paper, or you just want to go play a first-person shooter to take out your angst, you're not helping anything. You're not helping yourself. Okay, take a step back. I have to take a step back still. If I'm drawing a creature and I'm kind of frustrated with it, or if I'm designing something for a client and I know it can be better, and I just get mad at myself for not researching just a little more, I take a breath, step back, I go outside, I go for a walk. And then when I come back with a fresh set of eyes, fresh brain, sometimes I'll just sleep on it, which is why I don't like working late in the evening unless there's a deadline that just has to be met the next day. I used to be an advocate for working late because you tend to think cooler, well, you tend to make up cooler stuff when it's late at night, which is true. But the way you design it sometimes is not up to par. Because then when you draw the stuff and then you wake up the next morning, you go, what was I drawing? Or what was I thinking? All right. So seeking inspiration is kind of what I was talking about before with comparing yourself to other artists. It's there's inspiration that you can seek in many places. For example, the Discord that I run, Creature Design Workshop, which you should check in the link in the description below. We have many channels dedicated to inspiration, like mammals, dinosaurs, and one of the things that helps us creature designers is plants. Like plants, especially exotic ones, they look crazy. especially if you've never traveled before and you don't know what's out there. You go to some tropical rainforest and you see these flowers that just look like a creature. They're so much fun to draw, and they give you a lot of really cool ideas. So seeking inspiration, stuff like that's great. So in the Discord, we have a lot of, it's bustling. So people are posting inspiration all of the time. We got dinosaurs, we got dissection, birds, mammals, aquatic stuff, and, what should I say? Aquariums, all that kind of stuff. All right, and then the other thing I want to talk to about is trying new techniques. Yeah, we are stubborn. Artists are definitely stubborn. So if you feel like you're burning out, try something new. It's not just with artists either. It's with whatever you're doing. If you're a boxer, if you do BMX biking, just try something new. Try a new trick. Try a new combo. If you're a dancer, try a new move. You can get burned out no matter what you're doing. All right, so just to touch base on some of the slumps that I've had in the past, it seems that my plateaus happen about once every 3 years. Once every 3 years, I get to a point where I tell myself, okay, I learned this new technique and it's actually working well. I'm getting newer clients based on that new technique, but I'm not going anywhere. Okay, so this is where I want to keep the momentum going of learning. All right, so learning and allowing yourself to be open to new experiences and new art, which is like the equivalent of going to the museum, an art museum, and just looking what's out there, looking at the different paintings from old masters. It's so inspirational. It's timeless. It never gets old. Doesn't matter how good you are right now, drawing or painting. Just look at the old masters, look how they did it without Photoshop, without Control Z, anything. So like every 3 years, I suffer from these little plateaus, and I'm at the point in my career now where I'm pretty happy with the style that I have, but now I'm venturing into new territories. I feel like I'm gaining momentum with my environment stuff, which is something that I always wanted to do, but I was too stubborn to do it. And then I was asked to do it, and it forced me. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to take that leap. So those of you listening right now, take that leap. If you're suffering from burnout, artist block, you just can't think of anything. It's not that there isn't anything to draw. It's just you're not looking in the right places, which is why I implore everybody to look at reference. Okay, my Creature Design Workshop. If you want to sign up for that, if you want to learn how to design these things from scratch, no skill level required. Check out the links in the description below. Signing up early, which is usually between the 1st and the 15th of the month, so it'll guarantee you a seat in the following month. We do 4 fun weeks of creature design, and I teach you the basics, the very, very basics of reference gathering, choosing your favorite animals of Earth so you can use that as influence and reference, and then you design something that you are proud of at the very end of the workshop. Okay, we have student samples in the Discord. The Discord, Creature Design Workshop Discord, goes hand in hand with my workshop, so that's what it's in. And if you want to go a little deeper than that, okay, I bring my teaching experience to helping in my mentorship for people that actually want to learn how to draw better. They want specific skills learned for their art, whether it's drawing, marketing, or painting. I'll bring that into the fold too. And if you want to join my mentorship, please do not hesitate to contact me. You can DM me on the Discord. You can email me at bobbyrebholz@gmail.com. And you can also see it on the Creature Design Workshop website. So there's many ways to get a hold of me for that. What I want all of you to do now is I want you to go down to the comments and give some tips for fellow artists about what has helped you in the past or currently helping you with your artist block. What helped you get over the hump? What helped you learn new skills? And because I love reading that stuff, and I do encourage you to join the Discord too, because we have a lot of beginner artists in there that really want to learn how to become better at their craft, because we've all been there before. Okay, so if you enjoyed today's video, I encourage you to like and subscribe, and especially comment, because I want to hear what everybody is thinking about artist block, because I know all of us has suffered from it. We have all suffered from it at some point or another, and multiple times. So thank you again for listening. I hope you enjoyed the little critter drawing on the screen there too. And I will see you on the next video. Later. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So you are probably looking at one gnarly, nasty demon figure. Yes, this is the demon Ballpoint. It's part of my demonic series that I have been drawing over the past several years. I'm going to explain to you how I texturized this one, because I'm getting a lot of questions on textures, which is why I'm going to be posting more of that lately. We're talking fur, bone, fuzz, long hair, etc. So I thought, why not start with what I did for Ballpoint, where it's kind of like the dry, stretched tendon look. You can't really tell if it's skin, but there's also some bone and skeletal structure mixed in. All right, so, also another thing that I want to talk about is I deliberately ended the whole drawing at the end of the jawline here so that there's room here for the neck, so I can just pull some of these textures that I did here down on the neck. Okay, and then just to show you what kind of paper I'm using, this is moleskin, and then, you know, I have some demonic drawings underneath it, some faces that I was practicing with, so I kind of I go all over the place with this. There's the head, and then there's the bottom jaw. It's a very vertical sketch, so I don't really want to zoom out because I just want to keep the details in there. And then the other thing I want to talk about today is a very, very wonderful chair that I'm sitting in, which is from FlexiSpot, and this is today's sponsor. So I'm going to be getting into FlexiSpot's ergonomic C7 chair today, and it's really, really great, because I know how important it is to be able to be comfortable when you're sitting at your desk. And then towards the end of the video, I'm going to be getting into some time lapse. I'm going to show you how I'm going to be adding detail. Okay, so the first thing that I want to dive into is this whole skin texture right here and how I actually achieved it. So through my teachings and previous videos, you know that I put a coating of graphite in one direction to start things off. And then what I do is I turn my sketchbook so that I can keep the angle of my hand comfortably making the lines. And then let me move some of the stuff around here. And then I turn it like this so that I can hit the same area at a different angle but not press as hard. And then when it comes to the dry skin / porous bone texture, I can't wait to show you how I do that, because it's a lot of fun. But you can't achieve this texture up here in the face that I've done unless you do this first. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself through so much angst because it's not turning out the way you want. And there's a secret to it. And the secret is you have to lay that nice coating of foundation first so that any of the darkened pores that are going over it, the gaps, anything around it, are filled with that value. So I'll explain here in a sec. So let's say you want a nice texture for the neck. It's crazy going back to this sketch that I did, because, you know, originally I had finished it at that jaw, and I'm thinking I'm probably never going to come back to this drawing. And then lo and behold, my YouTube channel, I'm coming back to the drawing. So I'm glad I left the neck area blank. All right, so this is a slightly different angle than the other angles that I had just done. Those of you that are tuning into my channel for the first time, I want to welcome you. If you're wondering what materials that I use, this is a Faber-Castell 4B. It really doesn't matter what pencil you use. And strictly because if you have trouble making light lines, or if you make too heavy of lines, it's all a matter of hand pressure. So I can take a charcoal pencil and I could probably achieve, and you can probably achieve, the same depth right here with just a charcoal pencil. It's about how hard you press and about when you release that pressure. You just have to do it over and over and over again. It's repetition, and then you get better at it as time goes on. All right, so it looks like this angle hasn't been touched yet, so I'm just gonna go right across this one. Okay, also the other pencil that I used wasn't just a 4B in this, it's a Prismacolor. Okay, so it's not graphite. Let me just reach over here and show you the pencil that I used. It's just a black Prismacolor, like so. All right, and you can buy these separately, so I have them in my Amazon shop, so you can look at the link in the description below. I am a member of Amazon Affiliates, so if you want to help support the channel, help support me, you can get all the materials that I use on a daily basis in my shop there. Okay, so once I get a nice coating on here, actually I'm still not satisfied with it, because a drawing like this demon took, I think this one was 8 hours. I didn't time it, but I remember specifically the day that I was drawing it. It was a Saturday, and I had to go somewhere at like 8 p.m. and I started around noon. I just went nonstop. I didn't have many breaks, maybe like an hour break, because I just wanted to bust this thing out. So this probably has like eight or nine passes of graphite and black Prismacolor mixed in. So my technique is, if you put a very, very nice coating of graphite on first, and then you couple it with black Prismacolor, so I'm going to go over that. But you have to be careful with the black Prismacolor, because this is wax, and wax helps the graphite from smearing, which is how or one of the ways that I keep my drawings so clean. I just don't smear them, and I don't, let's see if I can get that, I don't want to have that shadow cast up here. Yeah, I got the tripod light on your left, on my left actually, and I don't want to ruin that light. Let me get that across here. There we go. And then once I have that coating down there of both the graphite and the black Prismacolor in a couple different directions, I'm on pass, I don't know, I lost count already, probably like 6. I'm going to go back over that area of black Prismacolor with the graphite again. And what this does is it offers 2 different types of textures mixing in with each other to form something really unique. And this is what helped me get that bone texture. So you can start to see the similarities happening now. Okay, there's nothing fancy going on here. I'm not using a blending stick. I'm not using an eraser. I'm not smudging with my finger. I'm not using anything, no cloth or anything. And those are all, if you want to use blending sticks, if you want to use like graphite powder, that's awesome. Those things are amazing. It's just, this is the way that I'm accustomed to and that I learn, and this is my jam. Okay, so once I have that, now I can start to think about the different details that I can put on this neck. Now I'm going to keep it zoomed out at this level so that you can see the demon's face and how all of the markings that I'm going to put on here eventually start to bleed into the rest of the neck. All right, and while I'm doing this, I do want to talk about something, and that is, I am an advocate for having a nice place to draw and a nice place to work. So I want you to take a look around at your office right now, or wherever your station is. It could be in your bedroom, it could be on some card table in the living room, okay? It doesn't matter. Having a really good chair is one of the most important investments you're ever going to make as far as being comfortable goes. Outside of a really nice bed. You can have a not so good apartment or a house, but if your bed is nice, you're going to thank yourself. And you're definitely going to thank yourself if you have a nice chair to sit in. Now that we have a decent coating going on the neck, and I'm going to add in some details with what appears to be hair. I think that I left it open for interpretation when I did this. Over here, you can see kind of a shadowed effect of maybe some tentacles. So I thought, hey, that would be kind of cool to have this demon be semi-Lovecraftian, because, I mean, we don't know. Like, whether or not you believe in demons is irrelevant. What is important is that we have fun imagining what they could be. So this is why I left this for interpretation. Okay, so skin and bone structure when it's dried. You have this nice coating. Now we can start applying some darker divots. Okay, so see these holes or porous openings within this eye socket right here? The original shading was already done, and inside here was black Prismacolor mixed with my 4B graphite. I went over the whole area here. That's why it's really smooth and yet light, because I didn't push hard. And then what I did is all of those crevices in here, I just started to outline the shape of those crevices, and it's pretty random. I don't have any planned design for this. It's porous. It's kind of like the pumice rock, you know, like dried lava and stuff. And it's just kind of random, whatever fits like a puzzle piece. Think about, what could I use for an example? Oh, like Freddy Krueger's skin. All right, I know it's kind of a weird comparison, but if you look at his skin, like his charred, burnt skin, some of it still looks fresh and some of it looks dried. It's kind of the same thing where there's these little crevices everywhere. So what I'm doing now is I'm holding my pencil at probably a 35-degree angle off of the camera. So my pinky's right here, and then I'm just resting it on my desk. So my desk is right here, and I can comfortably put the pencil over here to the neck. And now what I'm doing is I'm imagining an emaciated version of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay, so the sternocleidomastoid will attach to the skull back here. Let's just assume that this demon is semi-human. It kind of looks human, so maybe the muscular structure and the tendons and the muscles and everything are going to follow what is in us. All right, so maybe the muscle comes down here, very, very light indication. It's just going to come straight down like this, maybe at a slight angle. If I'm going over the lines here, because I had this outline of a tentacle, that's fine. As long as it's light, I can go back and add graphite, add dark or black Prismacolor to put in the necessary details. I don't need to freak out about it. But what I do need to pay attention to is how these individual crevices are going to be placed, because if this is a mass muscle coming down the neck, then all of the crevices are going to have to follow the contour of it and be rolled on top of it. So if I have some holes here, I'm going to have to give a little illusion that the holes, if you look at it from straight on, they're going to seem like a hole right in front of you. But if they're bending down here on the muscle or on the surface, then I'm going to have to give that illusion. And then you see up here, so the demon has, he has these teeth, or it has these teeth. I don't know if it's a he or she. And there's some stretched skin and some pretty gnarly textures. Almost looks like bone, but not quite. I'm going to do the same thing in the neck. So I'm just going to put some lines going across what I believe would be some surface changes. Okay, so it's not just a straight line across the neck, because then you're giving the illusion that the neck is completely flat, and it's not. That's one of the advantages of having a nice coating of graphite on here. I mean, look at this jaw right here. There's a lot of stuff going on. You have these stretched ligaments going across the jaw. You have this weird charred skin. And then you have what appears to be maybe bone coming out of that with skin on top of it. So there's a mixture of all kinds of really neat, interesting things happening. Okay, and then you have up here near its temple where there's like veins in there and stuff. So maybe there's actual tissue right here. I don't know. I just had fun just making all this stuff up as I was drawing. And I still had to look at reference for like the human skull and such. All right. So now that we have this, it could almost be like an aging demon. You know, when people approach the age of like 65 or 70, and then the skin under their chin starts to, the elasticity in the skin starts to give away a little bit right under here. Maybe it has that too. If you're above the age of 65 watching my video, please do not get offended by what I just said. Please. I'm so sorry if that came out wrong. But anyway, this demon has an emaciated look, not you. I'm putting in some grooves right here to where I can imagine some really cool stretched skin would be. So I want you, if you're drawing along with me or just attempting a section of this in your own sketchbook, just look at how light I'm keeping everything. All of this darkness that has happened, all of these different values that are happening, this could not have been achieved in this main area without starting like this. And every single video that I'm going to post, I'm going to stress the need for patience. If you are an impatient artist, you're going to need to fix that ASAP, or else you are constantly going to, how should I put this? You're going to undermine your own progress in your drawing, because you're going to want to jump to conclusions real quick. You're going to want to jump to what needs to be seen right away without working through it. So here I'm just kind of having fun and letting the pencil explore. I'm just holding the pencil, so I'm just shaking it. I'm not thinking too hard. I'm not thinking at all. I'm just like, yeah, well, the muscle's right here. I'm going to put in some value changes to make it look like there's some core shadow going on, some cast shadows. One thing that I do need to do now that I'm adding to the neck, and you guys have probably are witnessing this, is this bottom line for the jaw will need to get a little darker, because the value between the jaw and the neck are mixing in too much. So if I darken that jaw, look how that popped out now. It's just a matter of playing with the values until it's right. Okay, so the bounce light is going to change also, because originally I had bounce light because it was just a floating head. I didn't know the light source and what was going on underneath it. But now it's more of like a very eerie, dim ambient light hitting this demon, especially up in here where I have a bunch of atmospheric perspective going on with the horns and everything going off into the distance. We don't know if this creature's coming through some demonic hellish smoke, like we don't know. Okay, so once we have this, now watch this neat stuff happening. I like the crevices that I drew on top of here, the stretched bone or skin. I'm going to darken up just a small little hole, and then I'm going to fade off graphite from that hole, but still roll it across certain surfaces of the neck. And look at that depth happening, because I already shaded in the areas surrounding it. So like all of the white of the paper is still non-existent. The graphite's there. So I don't have to worry about filling in the gaps. This is why when I did this texture up here, like I can just put in another vein right now to show you how I did it. See this large vein coming off of the head? What if I just started to make small little circles with my pencil across the head right here? That's the shadow of the next vein. And then all I have to do after this is look directly above that, keep that value as is. I'm not going to make that darker. Go above that and then make that darker. And voila. What do we have here? We have another vein coming across the head. It was just a play on values. That's all it was. See, there's the vein running right across. So that's the beauty of having this nice coating of graphite. But again, I'm going to go back to the need for patience. You're going to need to be patient with your application of pencil. Regardless if you guys right now are using a number 2 pencil, an H, a 3B, 4B, it doesn't matter. I personally like 4Bs because I learned with these a long time ago, but also for me, it's just the right amount of B to where I can go light and dark if needed pretty quickly. Okay, so once I have this, it's going to be kind of a gross neck. Oh, let me move this up a little bit. It's going to be kind of a gross neck here, so maybe I'll put in some more wrinkles. I don't know. That's the fun part. I don't know. All I know is that it is a neck. I can't put any bone in there really because it, like on the side is muscle. Now I could go back here near the spine. Maybe this tentacle's coming down and just blocking most of the neck. But maybe it's growing from vertebrae, but it's too far in the background. I want to honor what I did before, and that is the super light smoked out graphite like coming off of the skull. I don't want to ruin that look, and I don't want to just force detail in the back here on that neck, so I don't think I'm going to do that. All right, so jumping back into the details of this neck. So you see that I've started to establish some of that the lines where it gives the illusion of dry skin or almost stretched tendons. It's like everything mixed together. So we have bone, we got some lumps, and I'll add some spikes too that you can see here. I'll put that along the neck because I think that'll be a really cool detail. But let's continue with some of this area, and I'll show you how I would introduce some bones coming right out of the neck, maybe on the back. So I have this tentacle coming down here, but what if I just start adding in some bone structures above here and the tentacle can maybe come through one of the vertebrae? I don't know. I'm kind of just thinking out loud here, and it's one of the fun parts about doing a sketch like this. All right, so as I'm playing with some more value, putting it on that neck, making sure it's super smooth and how I like it. I think I'm at the point where I don't want to get any darker than that. I don't need to. The darkest parts of this neck portion are inside these pores. Okay, it's similar to what you see up here, like in the cracks of the eye socket, and then also some of these pores up here, these really tiny ones. Now what I want to do is, if you see this crazy looking texture of, it looks like hardened veins coming out of the bone, that's what we're going to do right down here. So here's the trachea, or where the trachea would be. But here, maybe it's a different part of the anatomy that doesn't really exist on people. Of course, it's a demon, so it wouldn't exist on people. But I'm just going to treat them like little worms, and I'm just going to put some shadows, kind of like what I showed you how I did the vein up here. Instead of outlining the vein, all I'm doing is just using values to outline the vein. So then it looks more realistic. So what I'll do is I'll just put some darker patches along the path of where I would want that vein to go. And now that I have this darkened area, watch what I can do. When I shaded that and I put all those tiny little circles in over top of each other, inside here there are many different little grooves that just so happened while I was drawing because of the texture of the paper. So then I can just darken some of those grooves that were just given to me naturally by drawing on it. And in turn, it gives me a new texture, something that I didn't think of before. So now that I have that, it's kind of cool. It's almost like there's a hardened growth or something on the neck, and I'm just playing with the graphite now. I'm just making it come out of those little grooves. Watch how dark I can get. It's like super dark. I'm not even using black Prismacolor. It's just regular graphite. I'm pushing harder, and then I'm just walking that graphite right out onto the neck. And I want to make sure that I round it. So like right under here, under that bridge, or ridge, I guess you could say, it's not a bridge, I'm just rounding the shadow to make it look like the groove is following the structure. So when you're drawing, you have to make sure that you have an underlying structure to it. So this is why I always stress about having bony landmarks and the indication that there are actual bones under the surface of the creature you're drawing, so that it looks as realistic as possible. So you can see here I'm starting to do tiny little circles and just opening them up. And I'm opening them up and I'm pressing lighter and lighter as I'm opening them up, so it looks like it's shadow. Okay, so for example, in here when I did all these little grooves in the eye socket, I slightly pushed, and then I pushed a little harder, and then I let go of the pressure, and then I pushed a little harder, and I let go of it, and pretty soon you have these little crevices showing up. It's pretty cool. It's fun too. You don't want to rush this process. You might think, oh, well, I can do that. And then you have to realize I still have to keep a steady hand, and I have to make sure that I'm strategically placing these in the right spot, because again, you want to follow what you drew underneath everything. So for example, this weird growth now happening on the neck, well, the sternocleidomastoid is right there. So what I can do is I can just take my pencil and start adding a layer of value again and just walking it right up that line. That's going to be the slight groove of where the muscle is located. So if I do that, turn my pencil to the side, you can start to see that shading effect. And now what I'm going to do, so I don't want that line to show up anymore. It's too harsh right there. So I'm just going to go to the side of it, and then I'm just going to do some light touches. Okay, so I might have to grip this differently. And I might have to fade off that shadow into the neck muscle. And this is where patience comes in, right like that. So now it looks more faded, and then I'm not done though. Because now this whole muscle is popping out, I have to go behind it. And I also have to go slightly darker, right on top of all those grooves that I was drawing before. Just slightly. Look how that brings it forward now. It looks rounded. Isn't that cool? There we go. So because this is darker than this is actually getting darker than the jaw. So I'm going to have to darken the jaw even more to bring out the contrast. So it looks like there's going to be no more real bounce light happening on that chin. Or, I guess, jaw for that matter. Now, there we go. And then I'll just make sure to fade off the pencil so that it looks like it's as smooth as possible. Not looks like it's as smooth as possible. It is as smooth as possible. I don't really want to do any illusions here. I just want to be as raw and as genuine as possible. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So now what we can do is we can just... my pencil is actually still pretty sharp. It's because I was only using the side of the tip. So I'm just going to put some dark grooves. It looks like stretched skin, and I'm going to connect these two areas. This is how I did this. I did all of the shading down here, put in some weird Freddy Krueger-like skin, and then I put some teeth up here, and I just connected these grooves slightly, put in some fat tissue or whatever else is growing on this creature, and then it turned out to be pretty believable. There we go. And I'm going to get darker in certain areas where it looks like the least amount of light is penetrating. I'm not going to worry too much about what's happening directly under this neck, because now I'm getting to the point where if I put too much under here, it's not necessarily a cast shadow anymore. It's more of, I just want to show off the jaw. I'm going to have to get even darker with the shade, the core shadow right here on the jaw. I don't want to do that because the focal point is the face. Okay, that's the face. Let me just show it to you one more time. There's the jaw going all the way down. All right, so that's what I want to focus on. And I think I'm going to have these disgusting dried pores and skin and flesh and everything all connect right over that weird growth. Okay, there we go. And now since the muscle starts on this side over here, I'm just going to give a slight indication of some of that leathery look about to roll up over that muscle. So I want to give the illusion that that is what's happening. There we go. Okay, and then in here I can put in some more grooves maybe. Darker shadows. I don't want to make it into a predictable pattern, so every groove that I put in, I'm just going to be slightly off with it. I'm going to add a little bit of chaos with it, and then that'll help me. Now the one thing I am noticing is that it's not looking right that this is light directly under the jaw. So I think what I'll do is I will add some more value right next to it to make it look like there's still shadow under the jaw, because the jaw is casting a shadow on the neck. It's lit from above, it will cast it, but I don't want it to be completely obvious, so maybe I'll just put the muscle going all the way up so it goes directly behind the jaw, and that way it'll give a better indication of what's going on. Maybe I can get dark right there, and if I get dark right there and fade that off, then I'll have to get even darker with the jaw. So maybe right there is the darkest part. Yeah, I think that's working pretty well. It's almost like a little cast shadow. I won't do it nearly as much on this side. Okay, there we go. And then this line right here, that is the edge of the shadow. So I think what I'll do is I'll just make it a tad softer. I don't need to make it harsh. There we go. Okay, that's turning out pretty good. So you got that weird bone, that weird bone stuff going on over there. And then I will shade in some more value right there. So the throat, the value of the throat is just kind of peeking through, but it's nothing major. Hey everyone, Thank you so much for tuning in and watching today's lesson. I love showing aspiring concept artists and veterans better techniques to become a better artist. And also, I just can't stress enough the importance of having a very comfortable and supportive chair for your everyday work life. It's vital that we stay healthy, and let's just face it, a lot of chairs just can't cut it, whether or not we have bad posture or if the chairs aren't incapable of helping us. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Hey everyone. So raise your hand if you are scared to draw with a ballpoint pen. Most of you are probably raising your hand right now, at the screen or mentally. What I'm going to show you how to do today is use this. It's just a standard Bic ballpoint you can get at CVS. And I'm going to show you how to draw confidently with it. Now before I get into the nitty-gritty on different techniques you can use with the ballpoint pen, I just want to say that you can truly do some beautiful things with it. And one of the things that you can do is that when you put the lines down, every single line is going to be nice and crisp. So it is a little different than sketching with a pencil. But there is a double-edged sword to everything. So while everything does look more crisp and more clean, you can't really shade with it like you can a normal pencil. And then two, once you put those markings down, they are down. There is no taking them up. All right. And to be more specific about that, there are erasers that can erase pen. But why in the world would you want to do that if you're drawing with a pen? Just commit to it, which is the first part of this video that I want to talk about, and that is commitment. So you notice that the lines that I'm putting down, you'll see this weird wavy shape here. I'm actually going to be drawing a dragon. And in doing so, I am allowing myself to kind of add to my imperfections of what I'm drawing here. Now the great thing about drawing with a pen is you don't really know what's about to happen, and that's actually a good thing, because if you want to be a good sketcher, if you want to be a good artist, of course artist is, I mean, that's subjective. Like painting is art and sculpting is art. But if you want to be a good sketcher, that kind of artist, then you need to be able to accept everything that you put down on the paper. You need to be able to give yourself permission to draw the lines, and then if something doesn't visually strike you, don't automatically chalk it up as a failure. Because what that does is that you put the notion in your head that, well, I guess this whole thing is ruined now. It sucks. I can't shade it anymore. It doesn't look like everybody else's awesome drawings that I see in Dungeons and Dragons and, you know, World of Warcraft and Game of Thrones and Reign of Fire and all the other dragon stuff that I see. It's like that's totally not the case. Each one of you drawing, you are your own unique artist. Nobody in the world will draw creatures like you. They won't draw dragons like you. So you have to accept all the marks that you put down. Okay, so far, I didn't really have an intended shape that I wanted to do for the dragon. All I knew is that the dragon is going to be facing us, or maybe twisting its body around in some kind of crazy fashion. I don't know. Maybe I drew it too big on the page. And then here's where your conscience actually toys with you a little bit. All right. Because my original intent was to show all of the wings on here. Well, I don't know if that's the case. I can't do that. However, what I can do is just build off of what I drew by using really light gestural lines here, just to give me an indication of the overall silhouette, maybe some muscles here and there. I also, my pinky is going to be my guide hand, or my guide finger. Okay, so that means that when I put it on the paper like this, I'm not putting all of my weight of my hand down with the palm of my hand. I'm keeping it up a little bit. Now a pen doesn't smear nearly as much as pencil as long as you let the ink from the ballpoint dry. Okay, just keep your hand away from the image as much as possible, and it will further guarantee that you actually have a clean drawing. But I'm holding it lightly, so I'm not gripping this sucker so tight that I'm pretty much going to break it in half. No, I'm going to keep it light, and I'm just going to kind of walk my pen over. Now with a pen, like I said earlier in the beginning of the video, once the marks are down, they're down. Okay, so shading with a pen is going to be a little different. There's no graphite at the end of this, you can't sharpen it, but what you can do is you can turn the ball slightly to the side and very lightly go in one direction and cover an area. It doesn't look like graphite, but you're going to start to notice that it does have a very good layering effect if you keep the same pressure. Now as I turn my page and I want to shade different parts of the gullet, or whatever you want to call that underneath, you know, lizards have gullets, whatever you want to call that underneath the chin, there is some really cool layering going on. It's a different type of texture than what you would normally have with a graphite. All right, so once I go over that little area, I don't really want to go into too much detail about that area. What I do want to do is play up the ear section. All right, you notice that in the very beginning of this, I established some form of structure to the skull underneath. I'm making the jaw very pronounced and that eye very pronounced, okay? What's cool about dragons is that you can really exaggerate those bony landmarks and those nasal ridges and everything across there, because like with dinosaurs, especially the newer paleo-accurate dinosaurs, you know, where they have more feathers now, there's not really a lot of exaggerated spikes coming off of it, you know, not like the Giganotosaurus or the early T-Rexes in like the Jurassic Park movies. But with a dragon, you can get away with that, because anything goes. All right, so let's just put some really cool little spikes in there. And then the second thing that I want to point out is with a pen, you can immediately get dark. Immediately. You don't need any other pencil. Like with graphite, you notice that I use 4B, and then if I want to get really, really dark, I will use black Prismacolor. But with a black ballpoint pen, you can push that sucker hard and then all of a sudden push it light and get a full range of values in there. All right. If those of you wondering what color I'm using, this is the black, so I'm not quite sure how this is going to show up on the video, but we'll see. Also with dragons, it's a little bit more fun to play with eye shapes. You know, you can have some fun with the scales that are around the head. Maybe put some protruding incisor teeth on the bottom and top jaw. Just for fun, you know. One thing I like to do when I was a kid is the lips. I would put these little ridges just to let me know and let other friends know that was looking at my drawings. They're like, hey, these are the lips, everybody. This is where the mouth is. You know, when you're an amateur and you're first learning how to draw, you want to let everybody else know that you know what the drawing is about. It's like, no, it's not supposed to do that. You guys know it's supposed to do this. Yeah, it's part of maturing and growing up. I guess because I drew that, I haven't matured yet. All right, so now that I have that, oh, it's kind of cool. So I need to make sure that the ear wing is on the other side. So I'm going to look over my drawing a little bit. Again, that's another trick that I want to point out to everybody is if you want to make a truly accurate drawing in perspective, whether it's organic sketching or hard surface straight line sketching, instead of having the paper away from your sight and then your head tilted so you can comfortably sit there and draw, you could still comfortably draw, but just sit up, have good posture, sit up. Those of you with standing desks, those are the best things to use because you can see directly over your paper so that you can see the horizontal layout in full view instead of having it tilted, because like if you tilt your head and you try to draw a straight vertical line, it's going to be tilted and you're gonna not notice it until you stand up and you're like, oh man, this whole perspective is off. All right. So the other thing I want to point out with a ballpoint pen, because they get so dark so quickly, is use darkness sparingly until you are for sure that everything is layered correctly. So what I mean is, you notice that the under part of the jaw here, so this is the bottom jaw, I know that that is going to be the area of where a shadow would exist if the light source is coming down like this. So that means that with that darker line that I drew here, I'm just going to lightly start to push off with some more value on that. Now, if you're wondering what kind of pen movement I'm doing, it's hatching back and forth. Okay, so here, I'll show you on the neck. Let me see here. I don't want to move it up too much. It's just hatching back and forth like this. And then I'm going to turn it, and then you hatch back over. So it's kind of like my lessons in shading with a pencil, where a minimum of 3 different passes in different directions will at least start a good foundation for the value. Okay. You want to do the same thing when you have a blackened line and you need to fade value off from that line so that you do not keep it cartoony. I get asked that at least a couple times a month when I post drawings online. I'll read a comment and it'll say, how do I keep things more realistic and less cartoony? And I have to say the same thing over and over. Quit outlining your work. Because when you look around in real life, nothing is outlined. So quit outlining stuff. Everything that we see by our eyeballs in the physical world is because of light and dark hitting it. That's it. There really are no hard edges. Okay, so think about how light is hitting the side of a rock against dirt versus, you know, if we can see it against grass. Okay, what has the darker value? Well, probably the dirt. And then the grass and the green is slightly lighter. Okay, so we can see the edges differently. One of the things that I like doing with a pen, if I want to get some texture in there, are lightly applied scribble marks. And that is, when you scribble these lines over top of each other, when you first start the movements out, it's not going to look good. It's just going to look like a hairball. But in time, when you start to layer those up, they actually are going to look good. Always remember that. Okay, so let's let's have some fun here with this dragon. What if we do the neck and then it swoops around? Maybe it's a serpent. What if it swoops around like this? And then we have the tail. Oh yeah, this thing looks pretty gnarly. So see how light I'm drawing this first? I'm committing the line movement. Notice how they're bigger swoops. I don't want to do hair marks because I'm not trying to correct myself. All right, I don't want to do that. Instead, I want to make sure that I lay the line down because I can always build off of it. This is why it's so important to draw lightly at first. You can always get darker, you can never get lighter. Always remember that. Okay, these lightened lines in here where I had my original torso, I'm just going to use that for something else. I don't care. And by not caring, I actually have a lot more mental freedom and just to have fun and to sketch. A lot of people get way too bent out of shape when they draw, and it's not enjoyable because they feel like it's a job instead of a passion. All right. If you feel like you're trying to learn drawing, but it feels like a job and not a passion, question of whether or not you actually should draw. Like, do you like the idea of being a good artist, or do you actually like the arting? Do you actually like drawing? I ask my students that all the time that I mentor when they want to be a concept artist. I'm like, do you actually like the concepting part, or do you just like the idea of being good at it, even though you don't really enjoy it? You know, it's like if I watch somebody slam dunk a basketball, I would love the idea for me to do that because I want to know what that feels like, but I don't actually want to go practice slam dunking. I just don't want to do it. All right, that would seem like a chore. It would seem like a job. It's just I like basketball. It's just not, it's not in my blood. It's not my passion. So with drawing is. And if you continue to struggle, I think that one of the biggest problems is, you might be trying to take shortcuts into getting better quickly instead of taking the time to get better correctly. There's a big difference. Okay, I'm not really going to put any more detail on that face right now. What I do want to do is I want to put in some crazy looking arms. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to put in the sphere. If you have not seen my previous lessons, please go back into my lesson where I create a creature using simple spheres. Hey, you know what would be fun? What if we do 6 legs? Ooh, yeah. So let's put the hip up here. Put the hip up here. All right, so we're going to have a little bit of fun here, and that involves putting some normal arms down for the dragon. However, I am going to give it wings. But since the wings won't fit on this page, because it's more of like a magical floating serpent, let's just go ahead and give it some bat wings or bat-like wings, and I'll go over the anatomy of a wing so you know exactly what's going on and how to do it correctly. So first, let's put the shoulder in there. All right, and these don't have to be super detailed or anything. It's a dragon. It doesn't exist. So let's say that the dragon here has 2 main fingers and then it has 1 gripper in the back. Okay? So it's similar to a large bird, similar to an eagle, but not quite that. Notice how loose I'm keeping things, because I don't need to have a lot of detail for this. It just doesn't matter. What matters is that I have a cool looking silhouette, and then we can go from there. All right, let's put some claws in there, some really cool looking claws. Always remember that when you do claws, that where it grows out of the hand, that whole area right here, that needs to be bulbous. That needs to show that there is a knuckle and an area located in there where the nails can actually grow out of, and then the secondary knuckle. Okay, and then you have the hand up here. All right, and then I'll just indicate some shading with some hatching. I still want to be relatively neat with this. I don't want to have too many scribbles, because then it'll be too messy. But again, I just want to leave some areas open for interpretation. All right, again, this is not a real creature. Okay, it's just some floating serpent, and we're just having fun with it. But the other thing, and I'm totally guilty of this, the other thing about designing dragons is that the body parts, really any creature for that matter, the body parts should all be accounted for. I used to skip doing that. I used to just make certain areas of the creatures ambiguous because I didn't want to draw it. It's like those of you that know you can't draw human feet, you tend to hide the feet. I used to do it. Whenever I would draw a character, I would just put it standing on the ground and put grass over it because I didn't want to draw the feet. And then with the hands, I would put some kind of article of clothing in front of the hand, and then I wouldn't draw the hand. It would give me an excuse to hide it. So you want to hold yourself accountable for all the body parts, which is why, a little side note here, this is why designing hands and feet for creatures is so vital, because there's a lot of originality that could be had in that. Everybody draws the same feet. Okay, hooves, 3-toed, something spiky like for an arachnid, but you want to try to be unique with it. Okay, so we will put another arm in there, but I do want to go over the bat wing anatomy, and then I'll add in some bird anatomy too. But let's keep the wing super small, just for fun. All right, so we'll do this top part right here is called the propatagium. So the propatagium, like you'll have a small shoulder here, okay, and then the forearm. All right, like this. It's the skin that connects the shoulder to the wrist. Okay, it's the propatagium, and it straightens out. And then you have the wrist. So let's do like a small little finger. Why not? We'll have like a bat serpent. Okay, and then that goes all the way down like this. All right, now these are all fingers actually in a bat. So these are all fingers. Okay, you're going to have one main one that kind of floats up there. And then you're going to have the large finger right here. Now the skin directly next to it, and then the skin that's layered and it's really, really large at the very end of the wing is called a dactylopatagium. You know, think of pterodactyl. So pterodactyls had it. I know these are some strange words, but that's what it is. It's the dactylopatagium. And I'm going to show you how to connect those. So you just draw the second finger coming down here. You're going to connect it. Notice how light I'm keeping things. All right. Now, the main knuckle, or the main finger that comes down, usually going to come straight down. So these two areas in here are called the dactylopatagium. Okay. Now, the area that connects this on a bat usually would connect to the leg, but that's called the plagiopatagium. There is no leg here. The legs are in the back up here. So it will not be connecting to the plagiopatagium. It will be connecting to the side of the body. Okay, because we could add, you know what? Let's add a little finger in there. Why not? That would be the leg. And then that little bit of skin that would connect to the main body, that is called the uropatagium. All right, so maybe that's like a very, very thin membrane. Sure, why not? Okay, and then you have your latissimus dorsi, or your lat. Okay, it's not a human, but there are plenty of mammals in the animal kingdom that have the latissimus. Okay, it's the lat muscle that connects all the way to the small of the back, runs all the way down, and then your traps are up here. So it definitely needs some strong traps. So, in conclusion, up here you have your propatagium. These two areas you have your dactylopatagium. This large main area is your plagiopatagium, and then the connective membrane / tissue going from what would be the bat leg to the body is called the uropatagium. Okay, so you have a lot of tagiums going on there. All right. Look these up too, because they're really fun, and also they're fun to draw. So I advise all of you, if you really want to become a creature designer, you got to study the creatures and the animals that actually exist in our animal kingdom, because you're going to get very, very versed in the body parts. The more you know about the body parts, the easier it is to bend the rules when you start inventing creatures from your head. You just have to study what exists. Now, always remember that. Just study what exists, and then you can bend the rules. You can't make up rules. I had somebody the other day ask me, what's the best way to draw creatures from your imagination? And I said, reference. And they replied, no, I'm talking about making stuff up from your head. And I said, you can't have anything made up from your head unless you have real reference to pull the memories from. You can't make up anything. And if you do, it's going to be completely wrong. So you have to always remember, get that reference in. Isn't this great? Like, there's no eraser. There's no eraser. I'm just scribbling, having a good time, talking to you guys. Hopefully you're drawing along with me. That's what I really hope. I just hope you guys learn the value of sketching freely, allowing your brain to relax. Quit trying to perfect your drawings. When you try to perfect your drawings, that's when you screw up. When you are not thinking and you're just doodling and having a good time, that's when you do your best work. Quit trying to make everything perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect drawing. All right, so now we have 1, 2, 3, and okay, let's put an indication of where that claw is in the bottom for the other leg. There we go. All right, let's put in the other wing. I'm going to make sure that I'm looking over my sketch. Also, just a little side note, something that you definitely should watch out for as you're sketching things is that if you have an appendage on a creature or for whatever it is, and you look at it on the other side of the creature, make sure that the direction of the appendages poke the opposite way so that it looks more, or it's more realistic. This knuckle up here, this finger coming out, is going this way. Okay, I'll put a little arrow. So this one obviously has to poke the opposite direction. You don't want to accidentally do it both ways. Self-editing, guys. Okay, so here is just my indication of some deltoid muscles right up in here. Now if you want a little rundown on some wing anatomy for a dragon, if you were to make it a little bigger, I'll just put a little sketch down here. So let's say you have the shoulder. Okay, there's the deltoid, tricep, bicep, forearm. Okay, how do we add the wing from that shoulder if we were to draw an actual dragon for poking out? Okay, so you have your supraspinatus. Okay, so we'll just put like a little indicator right there, supraspinatus. And then you have the flexor alae major, comes above the shoulder. Okay, you got your deltoids right here. So this big sphere is your actual deltoid. Back here, your tricep. Back here, your bicep. Then you have your brachialis right there, okay? Let's break that up into what a human arm would look like. Okay, so under here, it's the supraspinatus. Top here, you have your flexor alae major. Okay, and then you have your tendons coming off to the joint. And then in the back here, you have your latissimus dorsi. So that's what I was talking about, the lat muscles back here on the serpent. The only difference is all of these muscles for the wing, it can be condensed into this smaller area right here. Because if a dragon were truly to fly like a bird, okay, you would have your hollow air sacs right here within the wing so it can float. All right, and all that fun stuff. That would be another lesson, because I have some lessons planned where I'm going to be showing in detail a real westernized dragon, something from Game of Thrones or something big and scary. Okay, but right now, since we're doing a serpent, everything is condensed and we just have an elongated body, which is equally as cool. I love serpents. I think they're really cool. And I don't think they get a lot of credit, especially in Hollywood. So, yeah, here it is. Anyway, let's get back into this little, or big dragon. Let's do the thigh up here. Just a basic shape. Put a little kneecap in. Right, and then I'm going to fold the ankles back, and I'm going to have your toes. Okay, so you're going to see two of them. There's actually going to be 3 toes physically, but it's going to be wrapped around that ankle. Okay, and then you have the heel here. It's going to be a little different because the leg is bent as if it's a quadruped, which technically, yes, it could be a quadruped, even though it's going to have 6 legs. We're not going to be able to see that leg in the back, but what we will see is that spine. And I want to indicate where that spine is by drawing a very, very light line going across the body. Now, why would I need the spine? The spine is a good visual tracker. If I put something on one side of the body, how am I going to duplicate it in perspective on the other side of the body? How do I know where the spine actually is? This little line definitely helps. Because if I want to start putting in a row of really awesome, badass looking spikes, I know where to put them. Okay, I can start walking them down the neck. I'll put everything so you can actually see it. I have to constantly look on the camera viewfinder so nothing is like off screen. So if some of the stuff that I draw, like if I move it down and I'm talking about something way down here, sorry about that. All right, I want to put a little stronger of a hump back there at the trapezius muscles, because this is where all of the shoulder joint, you got your clavicles down here, you got your huge neck muscles, you got your trapezius, you got your latissimus dorsi, they all meet in the back, so you're going to need a strong back, especially for a dragon. All right, so once I have that, and I'm going to darken up, this is why I love drawing with pen, I'm going to darken up the spine. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, depth-wise, I think my dragon is going to benefit from having a double row of spikes on the back. We're not going Godzilla, but we're just adding depth. Like there's structure on the other side of the neck instead of making it look flat. And I'm going to indicate maybe where some scales could exist, because I will be drawing indications of scales on this thing. Now it's like I started this drawing not too long ago, and you're starting to see the power of layering with a ballpoint pen. All right, no erasers, no freaking out. If I put in a scribble and it goes too far down than what I originally thought it was going to, oh well, let's see how we can work from it. Maybe these spikes that are coming out of the neck are attached to the scales that are now growing on the side of the neck. There, that just gave me an idea that I just didn't think about before. I'm just kind of going with the flow here, not really caring about the outcome. I'm not outcome dependent when it comes to my drawings, unless I am specifically drawing something that I have to have look a certain way. Like if I'm working for a client, we have already gone through the design phases and I'm working on a final sketch or something, digitally or traditionally, I need to make sure that it actually looks good. All right, so I'm just indicating with some single row hatching of where the bottom of the neck is. And the direction that I'm putting the hatching is rounded. Because when you, like with a pencil you can get away with doing stuff straight. You just layer it on top of each other. With the pen, the lines come on the paper a little bit more deliberate. And when you have enough of them side by side by side by side, and they're rounded, then it gives the illusion that, oh, okay, even though he's drawn with ink or she's drawn with ink, you can see that there's a roundness to it. So there might be a muscle here and it goes back on the other side of the neck, and that'll be fun. And I also want to change up maybe some of this area too. Like I always enjoy playing with the throat area. That's another area on creatures that doesn't get a lot of love. It's usually just the teeth and disgusting looking mouths and such. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Okay. Let's see what else we can do. Yeah, so we have that. Oh yeah, so let's finish putting in the spikes. I'm just going to put in one row for now. The other thing that I need to stress is that when you start to put in spikes on a creature that go down the spinal column, make sure that the direction that these spikes are pointed are in line with how the spine is wrapping around the creatures. Okay, so let me explain. All of the spikes that you see going down the neck right now, we see from side view. Why? Because we see the side of the neck. This is a pretty horizontal view of the dragon. However, as I move down the spine, the body starts to twist. We see the top of the back down here, which means that each spike that gets closer to that area turning, you're going to start to see less of the side view, and I'm going to start to tilt them. Maybe they grow uneven to keep that asymmetry going. But remember, I still have another row in there. Now the realism is starting to come out. Okay, so once we have this, guess what's happening? You can yell at the screen if you want. This wing that's in front is blending in too much with the spikes. This is where depth comes in. So I want to be sure to just darken that knuckle coming off of the smaller wing, and I want to darken the edges of that wing coming out because it's in front. And once you start doing stuff like this, you're going to add depth and you won't even have to shade. Just add the depth, make it a little darker, fade it off. Remember those knuckles coming out? So just walk down the ink. What I mean by walk it down is just like thick to thin, thick to thin, thick to thin, like that. It's a lot of fun. So now that we have the majority of our scribbles in, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to layer on some more details until you see this thing really come to life. So I encourage you to watch along with me as I do this. It's going to be in time lapse, so get your sketchbook ready. You can see how I layer it, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, let's go into some time lapse.